Hi, Greg. Thank you very much for joining us today. How are things in Salt Lake City?
Very, very good, Jimmy. Nice to see you again.
Likewise. Greg, Novagold is unique in so many ways, beginning with the sheer size and scale of the Donlin Gold project. But before we get into the details of Donlin Gold, why don't we first start with a brief overview of Novagold for those viewers who might not be familiar with the company?
Well, Jimmy, Novagold is a single asset company, and our focus for many years has been the Donlin Gold project up in Alaska. We own 50% of this asset. Our partner, Barrick Gold, one of the largest gold producers in the industry, owns the other 50%. Donlin is one of the largest, highest grade open pit deposits in the industry, located in Alaska, about 300 miles due west of Anchorage.
Greg, as you mentioned, Novagold has many unique features which make it a tier one asset, and I want to spend some more time on these elements to really reinforce just how special this asset is. Why don't we just begin with how many ounces you have and then move on to the grade?
Donlin Gold is one of the truly strategic assets in the gold space. The measured and indicated reserves are about 40 million ounces, with another 6 million ounces inferred in and around the known deposits. It's also a very high grade deposit. At 2.25 grams, it's one of the highest grade undeveloped gold properties out there. And you have to go back in time about 10 years when the industry had a grade of 2.25 grams. Industry-wide now, the grade is closer to a gram, which really makes the Donlin project stand out among the other undeveloped gold properties in the industry.
And maybe you can just expand on that. Why have the grades kept going down, and why are the grades so high at Donlin?
Well, the grades throughout the industry have been steadily declining. That's not a new phenomenon. It's driven in part by, as the mines are depleting, they've mined the better grades first. Also, as gold prices have increased, this has allowed the producers to lower their cutoff grades, which effectively makes lower grade ounces economic, but has the collateral effect of lowering their average grades.
And you mentioned that it has just under 40 million ounces. Put that into perspective for us. How many other deposits out there are that size?
Well, Donlin is really unique in that regard. The other large scale development project that's comparable to Donlin is the Sukhoi Log project in Russia. All of the other gold deposits are on average about a third the size of Donlin and significantly less grade. Most of the projects other companies are advancing are more industry average grade, which is to say about a gram.
So let's talk about the mine life. This is another very unique feature. What is the mine life?
Well, Donlin Gold, as envisioned in the feasibility study, has a mine life of almost 30 years. During that period of time, it would produce about 1.5 million ounces a year for the first 5 years, followed by several decades of about 1 million ounces a year. There's a 1 million ounce producer is a very rare phenomena in today's industry. Only a handful of mines are at that level, and many of these mines have been around for a long time and are steadily declining in production.
Greg, let's move on now and discuss your exploration campaign. You've had a very aggressive drilling campaign in the last couple of years. In 2021, you drilled 79 holes or 24,000 meters. Tell us what's happening in 2022.
Well, we've just finished up the largest drill campaign at Donlin in probably 15 years. We drilled about 45,000 meters, and we have released about a third of the results about a month ago, and we anticipate releasing another third of the results later in October, and the balance earlier in the new year. This drill campaign was part of a $60 million budget at Donlin this year, 30 to Novagold and 30 to our partner. In addition to the drilling, which was the lion's share of the expenditures this year, we also continue to be actively engaged in the communities in and around the Donlin Gold project. Of course, lobbying and other, stakeholder outreach. But that 60 million is, I think, is a real indicator of the owner's commitment to the project.
And Greg, maybe you can just tell us why you've been so aggressive with the drilling. 24,000 meters last year. Did you say 40,000 this year?
Yes, over 40,000 this year. Yeah, we've the focus of the drill programs for the last 2 years. Part of it is our partners. Barrick has been our partner for many years, but the executive team at Barrick is all essentially Rand Gold people that joined the company with the merger a couple of years ago. A lot of the drilling, particularly in 2021, was largely part of their due diligence and their desire to get a better understanding of the geology and the structural controls on mineralization. And I think we've certainly accomplished those objectives. The program this year, which was substantially larger than last year, had similar objectives, but also we did some drilling deep below the known deposits, ACMA and Lewis, as well as along strike and on trend. We also did some drilling, some very tight spaced drilling to verify the short-term continuity of the mineralization and particularly the high-grade intercepts that we periodically encounter through our drilling. And I think, as you've seen from our earlier results, some really fantastic intervals, some of the best in the industry this year.
And are they still drilling right now? And will they continue drilling throughout the winter?
We started our drill program in February. There are certain areas of the deposit that are better drilled when the ground is frozen. So we started in February. We, achieved really good drill productivities. We were very satisfied with the drillers and the support staff that we had. So we were able to largely wrap up our drill program in September. We're finishing up a few holes and we're doing some geotechnical drilling, but we expect to have the camp shut down sometime in October, and we'll reopen it again in the new year.
A phrase that I've heard you say, and I thought was quite interesting, and I want you to expand on this, but you've said that the next Donlin can be found at Donlin. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, I think that, that phrase really speaks to the exploration potential that we see at Donlin. And the potential is in several areas. The known deposits at Donlin, which we refer to as ACMA and Lewis, occupy about 3 kilometers of an 8-kilometer gold-bearing system. And throughout this gold-bearing system, we've got ore grade intervals all up and down the strike. And also, as we tested this year, there's areas below the deposit where it's open-ended and areas of sparse drilling inside of the boundaries of the known pits. So we've done some drilling there, and we look forward to updating the market with these results in the coming months.
Greg, just to clarify, most of the drilling or all of the drilling has been done on the Donlin Gold deposit. Have you done any drilling outside of that?
No, we have not at this stage, Jimmy. We focused our drilling in and around the known ore bodies because that's where we see we can add potential value to the planned open pits as opposed to developing a new pit along strike. Our drilling this year has been some below the depths of the known mineralization and some into areas of the deposits that were sparsely drilled in the past that we think there's the potential to convert some of the waste to mineralization or to ore. So we're really focused right now on drilling that can add value to the currently planned open pits.
Greg, an element which contributes to the success of any endeavor is partnerships, and I want to expand on these partnerships that Novagold has, beginning with the Alaska Native Corporation. Can you just expand on the relationship that you have?
Sure. The land that the Donlin deposits are situated on is owned by 2 Alaska Native corporations. Calista owns the mineral estate, and TKC, or the Kuskokwim Corporation, owns the surface rights. And we have life of mine agreements in place with both of these native corporations, and they've been staunch advocates for the project as we've navigated the permitting, great allies to have. And they've made significant contributions to our planning as well as our lobbying efforts in Washington, D.C. They're fantastic partners, and we're fortunate to be on private land. And that has, I think, simplified the permitting in some ways for us. And our native corporation partners, they have an owner's interest in seeing this project go forward. Donlin is located in one of the most impoverished regions of the United States, and there's no real economic opportunities on the immediate horizon other than the Donlin Gold project. So they'd certainly like to see the owners make a construction decision and move forward with the project. Our other key partnership is Barrick. Many companies like Novagold that are junior companies are looking to partner with major producers. And we're fortunate to have one of the largest gold producers as our partner. Dr. Bristow and his team are very geologic focused, and they've certainly brought a lot of value and fresh thinking to the Donlin project.
And I'm glad you brought up Barrick, because once again, you mentioned this earlier, but it is a 50-50 joint venture. But how active are they? Like, were they at the site all summer, and do they determine where you drill and how much you drill?
Yeah, our partner has, particularly since the merger with Rand Gold, Barrick has been very involved with the project. Earlier in September, I spent a week at site with Dr. Bristow and about a dozen members of his senior staff. They've been very involved in all aspects of the project, with a primary focus on the geology. As we're increasing our understanding of the geology, we're working with our partner to bring them up to date on the engineering and the various studies that have been conducted at Donlin over the years. They've been reviewing all aspects of the project, from the hydrology, the permitting, the metallurgy, and so on, just as they've, the new team has gotten their level of understanding increasing on the asset.
And of course, another very important partnership is with the government, both at the state and the federal level. Maybe you can just expand on that. And then from that, also tell us about the permitting and if there are any outstanding permits.
Well, the state of Alaska, it's a resource-driven economy, primarily because of the petroleum resources on the North Slope. And it's a state that has always valued responsible natural resource development. Alaska is the second largest gold producing state in the US. And there's, many companies have been successfully operating there for many years. Kinross, Hecla, Coeur, as well as Teck and others have all been active in Alaska for many years. And it's a state that understands mining. They appreciate the contribution mining makes to the economy. And they've been staunch allies for us as we've advanced the project through the federal permitting. On the permitting side, we have wrapped up the federal permitting. Several years ago, we received a joint record of decision from the Army Corps of Engineers and the Bureau of Land Management. Along with this, we also received our wetlands permit, the 404 permit. And these permits authorize the activities at the site to commence. We were mainly focused on the federal permits, but we've also been working our way through the state permits, and have we received air quality, water quality, and all the numerous state permits that mirror some of the federal permits. The only outstanding state permit is for the tailings dam. And this is a permit under the state of Alaska that requires detailed geotechnical and final engineering drawings for it to be authorized. And this season, we started the geotechnical drilling, and we, can certainly conclude that permit, while we're doing other technical work. And the 404 permit actually authorizes us to build a tailings dam, but in Alaska, water retention structures, tailing structures, and the like are administered by the state, hence another layer of approval. But the state has been very responsive in processing our permits, and we have a great working relationship with them.
So that's a great overview of your partnerships and also the permitting process. Let's move on. I want to touch on your balance sheet because you do have a very aggressive drilling campaign that's going on. That's going to require a lot of capital. So how much cash do you have on the balance sheet and how will you allocate it in the coming year?
Well, at the end of last quarter, we had a treasury of over $140 million. Next year, we have another $25 million coming in from Newmont, which is the final committed payment relative to the sale of our Galore Creek project to them a few years ago. So we've got a strong balance sheet this year, including our expenditures at Donlin, as well as our corporate and overhead expenses are in the mid $40 million range. And you can look at our balance sheet and we could continue at that current burn rate for many years. So I see no reason for us to go to the markets and raise any money, at least for a few years, until we're ready to move forward with the construction at Donlin.
Another element that really stands out to me when I was going through your marketing deck is your shareholder base. You have a very strong shareholder base, some of the best institutions in the world, including Fidelity and BlackRock. And the other one that really stood out was the Saudi Public Investment Fund. Maybe you can just touch on them because that's not a name that I see too often.
Sure. We were introduced to the Saudis about 4 years ago when they had approached us and said, hey, when it comes time to raise money, we'd like to participate in the project financing. And the representatives from the Public Investment Fund conducted very extensive due diligence on Novagold, the management team, the asset, and and our response was, well, we don't need to raise money for several years, and they, instead of participating in the finance, they came into the story as a major shareholder. And we're fortunate. As you mentioned, our other shareholders, Fidelity, Paulson, BlackRock, First Eagle, many of them have been shareholders for a long time. And about 2/3 of our outstanding stock is with the top 10 shareholders. And they're, long-term, very sticky money. They see the value in an asset like Donlin. And, some of them look at us as an unexpiring warrant on an ounce of gold. But it's great to have a shareholder base like that as we've all navigated the turbulent markets of the last year.
Greg, as we wrap up, what can investors expect in terms of news flow from Novagold in the coming months?
Well, the most important news that we'll have coming out later this year is the next third of the assay results from our drill campaign this year. And that'll be an important bit of news. Also, typically we guide the marketplace around year end on our work programs and budgets for the following year. And I think that'll be news that'll be expected and delivered in the normal course of our business.
Well, Greg, that was a great overview and a great update on Novagold, and I want to thank you for spending time with us today, and we are looking forward to those drilling results. Once again, thank you.
Our pleasure, Jimmy, and thank you for reaching out and having us on your forum today.